Welcome, everybody, to Across the Goal Line, a sports podcast brought to you by diehard fans, Cory Maines and Luke Godissart. Today,
how's everyone doing?
Some NASCAR over the weekend as Bristol has come and gone, and also the NFL draft is tomorrow night. Starts tomorrow night.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend.
Gotta have a mock draft for Luke. I'm gonna have some input, no full mock drafts or anything, but
Luke Kuiper Jr.
Luke
today.
Kuiper Jr. Okay. I will not be addressing you as that, but anyway.
Or Luke McShay, whatever you want to call me.
How about Luke?
That's good enough.
All right, so, yes, NASCAR this past week, Bristol, and once again, the hat on,
yeah.
Jimmie Johnson, once again.
Yeah, Jimmie Johnson won his second straight race. Won 2 weeks ago at Texas. They were off Easter weekend, they always are. He won this past Monday at Bristol. The race was supposed to be on Sunday. It was rained out. Postponed until Monday at 1 o'clock. It's the 11th time in Jimmie Johnson's young career. Well, I shouldn't say young career. He's in his 40s now. That he has won back-to-back races. This is actually the 16th straight year as well that he's won multiple races, dating back to 2002. Richard Petty's the only other driver to ever do that. He did it for 18 straight years. What else do I have here for the Bristol race? He now has 82 career victories, 7th all time in NASCAR history, 1 away from Cal Yarborough, and 2 away from Darrell Waltrip and Bobby Allison, all Hall of Famers. So if history stands on his side, he's definitely going to be on the Hall of Fame. Hell, he already has 7 NASCAR championships, so I think he's an obvious choice to go into the NASCAR Hall of Fame down there in Charlotte, North Carolina. NASCAR stays on the East Coast again. Go from Bristol to Richmond, Virginia. Clint Boyer been driving real well lately, finishing in the top 10 past couple of races. I think he'll win at Richmond on Sunday. Normally a Saturday night race. They changed it at the beginning of last year. So now it's a Sunday afternoon race, and then the fall race in September, the last race before the chase starts, is a Saturday night race. So I'm going to take Clint Boyer to win this Sunday at Richmond, and then whoever Cory wants to pick, and then we'll get into some NFL draft preview.
All right, I will take Kevin Harvick.
All right.
So, yeah, let's get into the draft then.
Next week, too, I'll give you a point standings on how the season has gone so far and who's in the lead and who needs to catch up before the summer starts.
All right, sounds good. All right, let's move in now to the NFL draft in Philadelphia this year.
Yeah, that's weird. It's normally in New York City at Radio City Music Hall, and then they moved it to Chicago last year, but now it's in Philly. So
yeah, it begins tomorrow night with first round coverage at 8 p.m. on ESPN.
And NFL Network.
And the NFL Network, always. I mean, what else are they going to do?
But NFL Network, for God's
yeah, I'm going to let you handle most of this because you do have a full mock draft. You are big into the draft.
Yes, I do.
Doing these mock drafts. So
I do one every year. I've done one for the past, I don't know how many years. Probably going back to 2006 maybe. Probably going on 10 years now, I'd say. Now, where those mock drafts are laying at, I have no clue. Because I do them in my spare time when I had it. But now, since we do this, I keep all my stuff. They'll go in the archives. But mock draft. I'm doing one. He's not. He did one last year. We both did all right last year, I thought, in the first round.
Yeah.
It's really hard to determine, who these teams are going to pick.
Yeah.
And that's why we're going to do a first round mock draft because especially rounds 2 through 7, they're even harder to determine because teams are trading back all the time.
Plus, we don't do it forever.
Well, that too, because we got wrestling to talk about as well. So be sure to go check out that video. Of course, the draft starts tomorrow night. It's going to be tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. And then Friday night, I believe, probably at 6 or 7. And then Saturday, probably around noontime, it's going to start.
Yeah.
And then it's going to go into Saturday evening, all rounds 1 through 7. Cleveland Browns, they finished 1-15 last year. They had the number 1 overall pick again. Second time in their franchise's history. 1999 was the other time. They do need a quarterback. They do need a defensive lineman. They do need a cornerback as well. They pretty much need everything.
Yeah.
If you ask me, they
Yeah,
finished 1-15, and that win didn't come until the middle of December against the San Diego Chargers at home.
They need a whole receiving core as well.
They do, because it did lose Terrell prior to free agency, signed with the Washington Redskins. And they could go quarterback here if they wanted to. But they do have Brock Osweiler. They got him from Houston.
I feel like if they are, they should wait until a later round, get someone.
Well, that, and then they also have the number 12 pick
That
they got from the Philadelphia Eagles in exchange for the number 2 overall pick last year, in which the Cleveland Browns selected Carson Wentz. So really, the Cleveland Browns could have Carson Wentz right now if they would have kept the number 2 pick, but they decided to trade it. So Cleveland gets a 12 pick in return this year. But I think a lot of people are in agreement on the number 1 pick, and that's Myles Garrett, the defensive end from Texas A&M. Warren Sapp did say the other day, the kid's lazy. He's not going to do well in the NFL. And Warren Sapp, coming from him, that's some pretty strong words. But, this kid might be a bust. He might turn out to be something good. But it all starts up front. The Cleveland Browns have had Joe Thomas since 2007 from Wisconsin. He's their key piece on the offensive line. They need a key piece on the defensive line. So I think the Browns will take Garrett, go quarterback later. They still have Brock Osweiler. They could, ride with him a little bit. But we all saw what happened after he left Denver to go to Houston. He had an awful year this past year. And now he's playing for the Browns.
Yeah.
So, and as you said about receiving, they need somebody to throw the ball to. So we'll have to see what they do with the number 1 overall pick tomorrow night. Just
one thing about the Garrett, you're going over the Warren Sapp comments. It kind of reminds me of Jadeveon Clowney when he was coming out.
Mm-hmm.
People were having questions about his almost like his work ethic a little bit, whether he was lazy or a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of didn't participate in practice enough. There's questions about him too, so kind of similar there. But we'll have to see obviously how Garrett turns out. If he is the number 1 overall pick, he will be picked obviously.
Yeah, he will be picked in the top 5 if he doesn't go number 1 to the Cleveland Browns. San Francisco would probably take him at 2 then.
Yeah.
Because they also need a defensive lineman / outside linebacker. He can play both positions if need be. What was I going to say? And going back to Clowney, it was number 1 recruit going into college to South Carolina. I think he just had that. He had that charisma, I guess you could say, that he was all that, and he didn't think anybody could stop him. But then he gets to the NFL. He's been hurt, a couple of times in his young career already. But he did step it up this past year, and with him and J.J. Watt on the same defensive line, Houston Texans can get somebody to play quarterback, which I think they will. The Texans, I think they'll be all right. But moving on, Browns, I think they'll take Garrett. The Browns could also take Mitch Trubisky, whatever you want to call him. His mom wants him to be called Mitchell. He wants to be called Mitch. I really don't give a shit what they call him. The Browns are still debating on whether to take him at once. So they could take him. He's a local kid from outside of Cleveland. But San Francisco, I think they do take him. They could go, anywhere at 2 because they do need a quarterback. They need that offensive lineman. They need a defense lineman. They need that cornerback / safety as well. Kyle Shanahan, new head coach. John Lynch, new general manager. I know they did sign 2 veteran quarterbacks with Brian Hoyer and Matt Barkley in the offseason. But I think if you bring somebody in that's young, he already has the tools of an NFL quarterback at such a young age. He can learn from behind both those veteran quarterbacks. And I mean, those veteran quarterbacks in Hoyer and Barkley, they can win you games, in the time being. But I think if they draft Mitch Trubisky, if the Browns don't, I think the 49ers, it'd be best for the 49ers moving forward, possibly get back to where they were just a couple years ago with Colin Kaepernick when Jim Harbaugh was still there, but really get back to when they were winning Super Bowls back in the 80s and 90s with Joe Montana and Steve Young.
All right. I don't really have much to say about the Niners.
Okay, you don't have much to say about the 49ers.
I mean, I will say that QB would make a lot of sense, obviously. New GM, new coach.
Yeah,
fresh start.
Yeah, that, and then Kyle Shanahan. I think he's going to have a lot to do with it. He's been an offense coordinator for the past 10, 12 years, all over the league. But really, what got him this head coaching job was just this past year when he was in Atlanta with the Falcons. He turned Matt Ryan into an MVP. Matt Ryan, he was already a good player, but he wasn't MVP caliber. With Shanahan's offense, Ryan got turned into into the most valuable player in the National Football League, and then they were a couple of plays short of winning the Super Bowl. The Cleveland Browns, they're next. They finished 3-13. They really need everything as well. They could also take Mitch Trubisky if he's there, but they did just sign Mike Glennon from Tampa Bay, who never really started in Tampa Bay because 2014 was his rookie year. He played some, but once they drafted Jameis Winston, number 1 overall in 2015, Winston's had the job. I go back to Brock Osweiler. We all saw what happened with him going from Denver to Houston, signing a big deal. Glennon just did the same thing. So Cleveland could take a quarterback, but I think if they do, they're not going to take one until the middle rounds because they do need a safety. Jamal Adams from LSU. I think he could be the face of Bears defense. The Bears really haven't had a key member, a good player. They've had good players, but they don't have Pro Bowlers year in and year out, like going back to Brian Urlacher in the middle of the defense. The safety, the secondary position, is really he's the quarterback of the defense. Mm-hmm. Adams, he reminds me a lot of Eric Berry. They're both 6 foot, 215 pounds. You look at Eric Berry, he's been good ever since he came into the league out of Tennessee, and he was a top 5 pick going to the Chiefs. Yeah, he had cancer, but he came back from it. But I think if the Bears take Jamal Adams, I think they can move forward with him, stop Aaron Rodgers, stop Matthew Stafford, and whoever's playing quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, whether it be Sam Bradford or Teddy Bridgewater. I saw yesterday the Vikings aren't going to pick up Bridgewater's 5th-year option, so this is more likely his last year in Minnesota. But I think if Chicago takes somebody on defense, it'd be best for them moving forward.
Yeah, the Bears, I don't know what to say about the Bears either because they've just gone straight downhill lately.
They have.
I mean, the total absence of Jay Cutler in any form or fashion, being good, that is.
Yeah, and he's still a free agent. We had some free agent signings just yesterday and a trade today that a deal still has to get done. Adrian Peterson signed with the Saints, and Marshawn Lynch got traded from the Seattle Seahawks to the Oakland Raiders. So AP is now a member of the Saints, and Marshawn Lynch is a member of the Oakland Raiders. And Jay Cutler's still a free agent. And that's what I said. They could get a quarterback. They did bring in Mike Glennon. John Fox, he's a defensive-minded coach, though. Mm-hmm. So I think if they take... you saw what he was able to do with his defenses in Carolina when he was there for 8 years. Captain Marlin, who actually just came back to the Panthers in free agency this year as well. He was one of those key members in the secondary when John Fox was there. Jamal Adams could relate to him as well. You saw what if Trubisky's there, I think you might want to take him because who knows if Glennon's going to turn out because you saw what happened with Brock Osweiler.
Yeah,
that's the key thing right there. But you see what John Fox also did with Jake Delhomme. He was unexperienced. Led them to the Super Bowl. They were a game-winning field goal away from beating the Patriots in Super Bowl 38. So the Bears could really go any direction, but I think they get defense. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they pick 4th. They're picking in the top 5 again for the 6th straight year. They finished 3-13 as well. They need pretty much everything on the line. Pretty much everything. A lot of these teams in the top 10 need everything, to be honest with you, so I'll quit saying that. If they do want an offensive lineman, they got to trade back. The O-line class is not as deep this year, so you'll be able to get guys, a little bit later on in the first round. I don't think I have one going until the 26th pick to the Seattle Seahawks. So it tells you, how far these guys can drop. They could also go tight end because he needed tight end because Julius Thomas isn't there anymore. They traded him to the Miami Dolphins. O.J. Howard's there. They could take him from Alabama. He really came on in the 2016 national championship game against Clemson. 2 national championship games ago, not this past year, when it was the one that Alabama beat Clemson. They could go defensive player if they wanted to. They've done that the past 2 years. I believe they've done that the past 3 of the 4 as well. But they need to help out Blake Bortles. So they could go offensive lineman, but that's like I said, if they want that, they got to trade back. But you got to help him by running the football. And if you want to win games, you don't want to finish 3-13 again. You don't want to pick in the top 5 for the 7th straight year next year. You got to score touchdowns, and by doing so, you got to help Blake Bortles out. You got to run the football. Leonard Fournette from LSU, best running back in the draft class this year. A lot of people think. He rushed for 3,800 yards, 40 touchdowns in less than 3 years at LSU. He really didn't play a whole lot this past year. He wanted to actually sit out and then, possibly be the number 1 pick in this year's draft. He could have a chance to be if the Browns want to take running back. I don't think they will. But I think if the Jacksonville Jaguars take Fournette, they do have Chris Ivory down there and what's his name from Alabama, T.J. Yeldon. But they could really move on from him. Ivory's pretty much washed up. He had his years in New Orleans when he was a good back, and you were talking to me earlier about New Orleans running backs when we were talking about AP. Really, and fantasy-wise, you don't want any of those guys because they have a running back committee year in and year out. Mm-hmm. Ivory had a good year in with the Jets up in New York, and that's what landed him in Jacksonville for agency last year. But really, he didn't really do anything last year. He was hurt, and that's why the Jaguars finished 3-13. They can't run the ball. Blake Bortles, he can't throw for 50 interceptions a year. They got to be able to run the football. So I think they take Leonard Fournette from LSU.
I feel like Fournette a little too high at 4 because if you look at some of his games against more NFL-like defense, you're talking about the Alabama games, he didn't do too well.
No.
So that kind of is a question mark for me.
Yeah.
Whether or not he'll actually be able to run the ball in an NFL system against an NFL defense. Granted, in the AFC South, Texans is all you really got to worry about. Mostly.
Yeah, the Colts,
the Titans are coming on.
Well, that and the Colts, their defense has been down for, I don't know, they haven't had it.
Almost forever.
Yeah, they haven't had a key defensive player probably since Bob Sanders.
And he was injured almost every
year. Yeah. So when we get to the Colts, we'll talk about that. But go on.
But I feel like they might trade this pick.
They could, and that's the hard thing about it. I didn't do a mock, when teams are going to trade in and out. You can't really determine when they're going to do it. That's the thing that's hard about it. So that's why I didn't do it like that. But there's going to be trades. You just don't know where they'll be at, and they could trade it. I can understand why you think it's high. I actually thought it was high as well, but I just thought it was the best fit.
Yeah.
Looking at the other teams in the top 10, I don't think he's going to fall out of the top 10.
Yeah. Well, they could trade back and get him if they want him.
Yeah.
Obviously, but if they want to stay with that 4 pick, I think you go defensive lineman then or something, because like you said, lineman you can wait on.
Yeah.
Because the class is poor, and then tight end. I don't really think you need to pick a tight end in the first round, no matter how good they are. I feel like tight end's very moldable anyway. Tight ends, you can get great tight ends in 4th, 5th, 6th round.
You could, yeah.
Easily. So
look at what's his name down in Tampa Bay right now.
Brate.
Yeah, Cameron Brate. I believe he was a middle round pick to a late round pick. And really, that's why you got to watch every single round, every single pick of the NFL draft. Guys that are drafted in the middle rounds, they're playmakers, they're superstars, they're starters for their current team at the moment. I'll give you a perfect example. Going back, he doesn't play for him anymore. He played for your Saints. Going back to 2006 when they drafted Marquise Colston. out of Hofstra, he turned into their number one receiver for how many years, and he was a 6th round pick.
Yeah,
look at Tom Brady.
I think Tom Brady is the one that you really need to look at.
Yeah.
Well, quarterbacks is a different story, I think, in that regard, because quarterbacks, there's so many different examples. You got Dak Prescott just from this past season.
Yeah. Third or fourth round pick last year.
It's like almost every year there's a quarterback comes out that ends up being good in the end, because I feel like the lower you get drafted, the kind of more motivation it gives you. In a way.
It does. I think it does.
Because you got drafted so low, it's like, well, I deserve to be higher. So you're going to work harder and harder to prove that I deserve to be a top pick.
Because then you look at other top picks that don't turn out.
Yeah.
Jamarcus Russell is a perfect example of that.
I think he's the penultimate example.
He's number one pick in 2007 to the Raiders.
He was garbage.
And he was absolutely awful. Literally. I mean,
I think that's just the one.
I mean, the Raiders were bad back in 2007 and 2008 when he was playing, but still, he could have, played a little bit better and they could have won some more games. But so you think Jacksonville will go defensive line? They could go defensive line
if they want to stay at 4. I think.
Okay.
Based on the options that they have.
Well, Tennessee picks at 5. This was the LA Rams pick, but with Tennessee trading the number 1 overall pick last year, the Rams got the number 1 pick, select Jared Goff. Hopefully,
see what that does this year.
Yeah, he really didn't do anything last year. Case Keenum's not there anymore, so he's up in Minnesota.
He might be able to.
So he might be able to
get a couple more starts.
New head coach, Sean McVay came over from Washington. We saw what he did with Kirk Cousins. So we'll have to see what happens with that. I think Tennessee goes defensive line. Solomon Thomas, this is a guy that Jacksonville could take. Who put a comment on there?
It's Chase.
What was Chase Wise have to say?
That's for me, but since we're talking about the NFL, does Johnny Manziel make a team as a camp buddy this offseason?
There might be a good chance this year compared to other years.
I don't know who.
Yeah, that's the tough thing about it. I don't know who either. There's a better chance than years past. I'll say that. I agree with you, Cory. I don't know who either, but we'll have to see about that. His career might be over. He might just be getting started though. If someone does take a chance on him, gets on the right team, he might. He has turned his life around a little bit, but we'll just have to see.
I like that, Chase, for the Steelers.
What? No, Johnny Manziel will not play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I do not think so. I'd rather take the worst quarterback in this year's draft class than take Johnny Manziel, because Pittsburgh's damn well not going to put up with his shit. They don't put up with anybody's shit. And if Martavis Bryant messes up again, he's going to get cut.
Well,
I know he just got reinstated, but if he messes up again, they're going to get rid of him.
With that logic, it's almost a perfect fit. They'll be able to keep him in line then.
No, he'd be dumb enough to mess up, to act up again. But I think he would. That's my opinion. But Solomon Thomas, guy, Jacksonville could take it 4. I have him going 5 to Tennessee. Speaking of the Steelers, Dick LeBeau, current defense coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. You saw how Pittsburgh's defensive lines were for how many years. And you got to get after that quarterback, especially when you're in a division with Andrew Luck. Bortles, if he, doesn't have his head up his ass, and then whoever Houston has at quarterback, whether they take on this year or move on with Tom Savage, you got to get after the quarterback. So I think they take Solomon Thomas, for simply the number 2 defensive lineman in this year's draft behind Myles Garrett. Some people might think Thomas is better, but that's their opinion. Speaking of tight ends, you said you don't think one will go in the first round.
Well, I don't think one should go.
Or one should, okay. Well, I think one will. I think I actually have 2, possibly 3 in the first round, to be honest with you. Just because how things play out.
It's almost like I think it's Kuiper about the running backs. How no running back below like 20 or something. I forget who that is. I think it's Kuiper. He has a big beef with running backs going high in the draft. usually. So I'm kind of in that with tight ends. Tight ends later picks for like 20 down. So I think are good, but I don't think you need to take a tight end so high.
Well, I think the Jets will, because it seems like every year the Jets don't know how to pick. I mean, last year, and
this explains their poor seasons.
Yeah, it explains their struggles year in and year out. They'll have one good year. Next couple years they'll slack, and then we'll get back on track. You got to build your team through the draft, though. That's what I said. The middle rounds of the draft, that's where you get your players at, and then also in free agency and wherever else. But the Jets, I mean, I think they do take a tight end. They did take a tight end in the first round when they took Kyle Brady out of Penn State back in the 90s. I think that's the last time they did take a tight end in the first round, if I'm not mistaken. The number 6 pick, the last time the Jets had it was 2009 and took Mark Sanchez. We saw how that played out. He did lead them to 2 straight AFC title games. Never went to the Super Bowl, though. I feel bad for Rex Ryan, but at the same time I don't. But, I mean, it's hard to tell what the Jets are going to do because it's the Jets. Like I said, it seems like they just don't know how to pick every year. But I think they take O.J. Howard from Alabama. I talked about him just a little bit ago. He really came on in the 2016 National Championship game, 2015 season, 2016 National Championship game against Clemson, when he had a big second half and really led Alabama, to a comeback victory over Clemson because they were down in that game. And then whoever is going to be playing quarterback for the Jets, whether it be Hackenberg, whether it be Petty, whether it be Josh McCown, hopefully Hackenberg plays. You got to have somebody throw the ball to. They did lose Brandon Marshall. They got rid of him. They do have Eric Decker still, but they don't have that number one. They don't have that number 1 tight end that they can throw to in short yard situations or deep down the middle if they have to. So I think the Jets take O.J. Howard. The Chargers, the Los Angeles Chargers, it's still taking some time to get used to. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you had anything to say about the Jets. Stop me anytime.
No.
Okay.
It's the Jets.
It's the Jets, exactly. I could have worn my Jets hat today if I wanted to, that I bought actually last year during the draft after Hackenberg got drafted. Cory knows what I'm talking about. But the Chargers, like I said, it's taking some time to get used to still. The Los Angeles Chargers are going to be playing at StubHub Stadium, 30,000 seats. They already sold out their season tickets for this year. It's only for the next couple years because then once the new stadium that the Rams and the Chargers will share, that's when they'll move. Whenever that's finished, the Chargers, they have a lot of guys that can, go balls out and just play football. Mm-hmm. They've had a lot of injuries though, and that's why they've sucked for the past 3-4 years. Phillip Rivers, he might get snubbed and not ever go into the Hall of Fame. I could be wrong. I hope he does go in the Hall of Fame. He's a great quarterback. He's one of those quarterbacks who throws for 5,000 yards a year. He has his weapons at wide receiver. He has his weapons at running back. And they really could have won the AFC West last year if both the Chiefs and the Raiders weren't so good. And speaking of the Chiefs and Raiders, it's a copycat league. You see what they've done on their defensive lines with Von Miller, Khalil Mack, and Justin Houston. I know the Chargers already have Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram, but I think if you take another guy, like I said earlier with the Titans, you got to get after that quarterback. And with the AFC West having better quarterbacks than the AFC South, you have Derek Carr, Alex Smith, and who's the other one I'm thinking of? Whoever's going to be the quarterback for the Broncos, Simeon or Paxton Lynch. You got to get after those guys. A lot of people might think this is a little high as well, like you thought Fournette, a little high to Jacksonville at 4. Hassan Reddick, outside linebacker, defensive lineman, defensive end out of Temple. He's a former walk-on to Temple back in 2012, so he had to earn his way onto Temple, one of the worst teams in college football in 2012. And now he's potentially going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. Pretty remarkable story if you ask me. So the Chargers, they could go anywhere here though at 7. I think if any team in the top 10, they would have other than the Jaguars, 'cause I agree with you on that, to trade back. I think the Chargers would be that other team that could trade back. But like I said, like we both said, it's hard to determine when these teams will trade back or trade up. So I was on Reddit going to the LA Chargers.
Yeah, I think they might want to trade this pick possibly, because honestly, I think they should be trying to get something possibly on the offensive line, maybe early as they can, or maybe even later in the draft possibly. Yeah. But add another offensive lineman, try to get Melvin Gordon going. Yeah, he did have a pretty good season this past season.
Yeah, coming back from injury.
So get him going, their top draft pick from a couple years ago. Get him going. It's only going to make things easier on the offense. And Phillip Rivers. I mean, I understand defensively because, I mean, the Chargers, they don't really have exactly top tier defense or anything. They've been average to below average most years.
Yeah.
So adding someone like who you have there on the line would help. Of course, they got a couple guys on the line already. That is, maybe someone in the secondary as well. Try to stop some people.
Yeah, they lost Eric Weddle before last year. He signed with Baltimore in free agency.
Try to get someone in the secondary to stop those quarterbacks again. So,
all right. Next up, Carolina Panthers picking 8th overall. They finished 6-10. 1 year after.
What a difference this season made.
Yeah, exactly. 1 year after they went to the Super Bowl.
And only lost, one game going into that.
Yeah, which was to the Atlanta Falcons in week 15.
It was late, yeah.
Yeah, of the 2015 season. I think they also good defensive line.
Yeah.
Jonathan Allen from Alabama. They did bring back Julius Peppers.
Yeah.
Who's the team's the franchise leader in sacks. He also went and played for the Bears and the Packers before coming back. But I think if you draft somebody like Jonathan Allen, a lot of people might think this is a little too high for him as well, with him being a middle to late first rounder. But I think if you bring in Jonathan Allen, who's only about 2 inches shorter than Peppers, who can play either inside or outside on the defensive line, I think it'd be best to learn from behind him, and maybe in 10 years Jonathan Allen's the new franchise leader in sacks for the Carolina Panthers. So I think the Panthers go, D-line, Ron Rivera's defensive-minded coach. I forget who they took last year in the first round. I can't remember if they went offense or defense. But especially talking about quarterbacks, you got to get after the quarterbacks. The NFC South, two former MVPs, and actually 3.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And a rookie of the year, 2 rookie of the year quarterbacks. With Drew Brees, Jameis Winston, and Cam Newton.
And Matt Ryan.
Yeah, Matt Ryan. Excuse me, not Cam Newton.
I mean, all of the quarterbacks.
Yeah. So you got to get after those guys. So I think you take Jonathan Allen from Alabama.
Yeah, I like lineman for them at 8. Is it?
Yeah, that's the 8th overall pick.
Yeah, I like possibly if they can, obviously a D lineman there.
And really, like you said, what a year difference makes. What did you say? Because what a difference a year makes. I can't talk today. I'm too tired from doing all this shit. Believe me, I've worked hard. You should see on my notes. Cory, tell them what my notes look like.
I mean,
I don't know how many pages.
From my perspective,
I don't know.
It just looks like chicken scratch stuff.
Well, but I don't know how many pages I have here for my mock draft. But
it looks about I don't know, probably at least 15. I would think.
I'll show you at the end, but
all right.
That'd just be better because I have them on order. But I was going to say something else about the Panthers. Till I forgot. Maybe if I remember, I'll go back to it. Next, Cincinnati Bengals. They finished 6-9-1. They're one of the teams that tied last year. They tied the Washington Redskins over in London. They could go defensive line, offensive line, linebacker. They lost Ray Malaluga. They actually got rid of him. Actually did sign somebody to replace him, though, so I don't think they go there at 9. I think you take the best available player. And they did lose last year, 2 years ago actually, 2 wide receivers to free agency. So they need an opposite guy for AJ Green. They did draft Tyler Boyd out of Pitt last year, but I think if you bring in a guy, I know what I was going to say about Jonathan Allen in Alabama now. You see what 9 players out of 10 that come out of Alabama are good in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I think D. Milliner was the only last one that sucked because he played for the Jets. That's not the reason why, but he got hurt and his career he didn't get off on the right foot. But Mike Williams, I think from Clemson. Clemson's had some good wide receivers. DeAndre Hopkins, Sammy Watkins, and now Martavis Bryant. Pittsburgh, he's back from suspension. You've seen what all of those guys have done in the league since they've entered. Not only their short young careers. So I think Cincinnati takes Mike Williams to go be the number 2 receiver for Andy Dalton, Cincinnati, especially when you have Pittsburgh and Cleveland doesn't have receivers, and Baltimore needs one. I'll get to them here in a bit. They pick at 16. But look at Pittsburgh receivers like Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant, Sammy Coates, Chase. He's still listening. Who else do they have? I can't think at the moment. But I think Cincinnati takes Mike Williams just because he's the best available player at the moment.
Yeah, another team that I can see trading, going back in the draft. Based on what they need, I feel like a lot of teams before them are going to take away a lot of the top options, possibly, that they want for their team. I do agree with you in a sense that they could and probably should get another wide receiver to add to their core. I don't know about picking someone really high at the 9, maybe drop back, get him if you want him. Drop back, try to get someone else, maybe like an offensive lineman, that is.
Yeah.
But I feel like where they are, what they need, I think they might need to trade back just based on the teams in front of them.
All right, then. I think the Bengals will do this in spite of the Bills picking at 10 as well because they need a wide receiver. I don't think Cincinnati's going to want Buffalo to have 2 former Clemson wide receivers that could potentially, wreak havoc on the league. So I think they do that as well because Buffalo picks at 10. They finished 7-9, got a new head coach for fired Rex Ryan. Sean McDermott's his name, coming over from Carolina, former defensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers for the past, I don't know how many years. I think he's going to have a lot of say in this pick. They did also lose Stephon Gilmore to the New England Patriots in free agency. He was a restricted free agent. New England made an offer. Buffalo decided not to match it. So now Marshawn Lattimore is the...
All
right. Lose power.
Oh.
We're 10 minutes.
We'll be back momentarily. I'll get back on talking about the Cleveland Browns. The Buffalo Bills. The Cleveland Browns picked 12. But we'll be back here momentarily. Something has come up.